Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about, can you stop your heartbeat with Kriya Yoga? So there have been some Kriya Yoga teachers who have talked about Kriya Yoga as a mechanism for stopping the heartbeat, with the idea that somehow this is a prerequisite for deeper states in meditation. For example, yogis who know how to operate the switch of the heart and to control their heartbeats can quit the body quickly and at will, or stay in it as long as they wish. Only those who have practiced control of the heartbeat and who have learned to live without oxygen by eating less carbonizing food and by preventing the decay of tissues in the body through definite yoga training in meditation can consciously experience death at will. So right there we have Yogananda in his SRF lessons setting the bar as the stopping of the heart being a regular occurrence for Kriya yogis. Similarly, in another lesson he talks about the use of the Hong Sa technique of concentration. If one can learn to control the heartbeat, he can experience conscious death, as did St. Paul, I die daily. And many yogis of India who have practiced this Hong Sa technique and through it achieve mastery over the action of the heart. So again, Yogananda is normalizing the idea that one needs to stop one's heart in meditation. And in his SRF lessons on the Kriya practices, Yogananda writes the following. The resulting higher states of consciousness are accomplished by gradual natural cessation of heartbeat and of lung capacity. The ego or pseudo-soul reawakens to the forgotten truth that man shall not live by bread alone, that this bodily functioning is not an absolute condition for man's expression of life and consciousness. The heart is a central switchboard connecting the five sense telephones with the brain. When the heart action slows down or stops completely during Kriya Yoga practice, the devotee becomes aware that life energy has been automatically switched off from his five senses. It is then impossible for perceptions of sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell to enter his brain, and thus divert his attention by rousing past memories, or by instigating new streams of thoughts. He has reached a peaceful, thoughtless state of consciousness. So peppered throughout Yogananda's writings is this idea about stopping the heart. And in the first 15 years of his time in America, from 1920 to 1935, Yogananda would travel around the United States, giving different talks and giving his yogic demonstrations, some of which where he claimed to have demonstrated his superhuman feats of yogic accomplishments, like stopping the heart. When Yogananda returned to India in 1935 at the bequest of his ailing guru Sri Yukteswar, he was going around and doing lots of touring and trying to bring up interest to help support the Indian arm of his organization Yogoda. In his biography of Yogananda, Sailendra Dasgupta, who was a student of Swami Satyananda and studied directly under Sri Yukteswar, and who spent considerable time with Yogananda during this period of his visit, describes how his younger brother Vishnu helped to organize a demonstration for some wealthy patrons. He writes, "There was an astounding feat that Yogananda ji was able to do, stop his heart from beating. And he could also demonstrate this tremendously advanced yogic ability in front of people, and had done so many times in many different public meetings. He had performed this feat publicly in quite a few places in India as well, like the time when he demonstrated it in front of a number of political and royal dignitaries at the Nikhil Bharat Kshatriya conference. Vishnu Charan wanted Swamiji, or Yogananda, to stop his heart at a gathering of the millionaire Sheth Mavaris, people of Mavar, and thus clear the way for financial donations. At Vishnu Charan's insistent effort, Sheth Yugal Kishore Birla and quite a few other wealthy Sheths came together at Birla Bhawan, wanting to see Swamiji demonstrate his extraordinary and inhuman ability. Vishnu Charan and Swamiji came to the event at the appointed time, but nothing was heard about it afterwards. Later, Vishnu Charan disappointedly said in a quiet tone of voice, Mejda, or Yogananda, ruined everything. He wasn't able to stop his heart from beating. So for this demonstration, Yogananda tried to stop his heart, and my understanding is that there was a medical doctor present who, despite Yogananda's efforts to the contrary, was able to detect a pulse for Yogananda. And certainly there have been yogis other than Yogananda who have claimed to be able to stop their heart. Anytime they've been subjected to rigorous scientific testing, it is found that they're not able to do that, at least no more than a few seconds. The purpose of Kriya Yoga is not to stop one's heart. The purpose of Kriya Yoga is to bring on an internalized state. So Kriya Yoga uses Kriya Pranayama, the mainstay of Kriya Yoga, which is a form of intentional breathing that brings one into an internalized state. And it brings on this state of internalization, what is called Pratyahara by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. So in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the use of pranayama, of this intentional breathing, is to bring about the state of pratyahara, internalization. And really what this is doing is to help to leverage the body's central nervous system, in particular the parasympathetic nervous system, to bring one into a low idle state. So Kriya Yoga does this by slowing down the breath in a certain kind of way that brings on a very rapid onset of this internalization of the pratyahara. Consequently, what happens is that one starts to lose one's bodily awareness. It starts to fade away. The breath becomes more calm or quiet, the heart rate will slow down, the body will become more still and start to fade from one's awareness, and then the mind starts to become more still. So that is what Kriya Yoga does, is it helps to bring you into that internalized state. One does not do that through stopping one's heart. If one stops one's heart, the blood flow and the flow of oxygen into the brain is impeded. And so if you've ever seen a situation where somebody got choked, they will go unconscious. And if the blood flow is stopped from going to the brain for long enough, which is really no longer than a couple of minutes, the brain will start to die and the body will die. So there's no reason at all why one would want to stop one's heartbeat in Kriya Yoga. It makes zero sense at all. So certainly there are cases where people have seen yogis in very deep meditation, and it may seem as if the breath has disappeared entirely. This is something called the tranquil breath in Kriya Yoga, which is not that difficult to get into. That the breath starts to shallow out and then disappear, and it is so faint that you can hardly perceive it yourself as the meditator, and people around you can hardly perceive it because there's very little sound. The breath is so slight, and so one's heart rate can also slow down in Kriya Yoga naturally because of the parasympathetic nervous system being predominant. And also the blood pressure can also start to go down. The heart rate, the breath, the blood pressure, all of these get dialed down, so one gets into a very low idle state, and it is very relaxing to be in that state. And especially when the sense of the body disappears, one can start to perceive these inner vistas in meditation. One can start to become internally concentrated. The body disappears, the breath becomes very slight, turns into the tranquil breath, it disappears, the mind is calm, and one can start to perceive subtle aspects of one's psyche and one's internal perceptions. This leads to a state of dharana, which is internalized concentration, which then can turn into a state of absorption, being absorbed in one's inner experience in meditation. The sense of the body completely fade away, and then people can feel this sense of infinite spaciousness, where they move into something called samadhi. Usually the first samadhi is this infinite space. And this can deepen into a sense of this infinite bliss, and so on and so on. So there's no reason why one would want to stop the heart other than to make the claim about it and have bragging rights about it, as if one was some sort of superhuman yogi. And that's the thing. If people feel that they need to persuade others by tall tales, then you have to wonder why they would do that. If one has true accomplishment in yoga, meaning that they can go internal and they can go through deep meditation states, that they have realizations, that they can have wisdom arising, that they can support others, that they can help others, that they can move towards enlightenment. Why would one care about one's ability to stop the heart? It makes zero sense. So from my perspective, I would say that if somebody is following a particular Kriya Yoga teacher because of tall tales of superhuman yogic accomplishment, I would say that student is setting themselves up for failure. It's raising somebody on a pedestal and worshiping them instead of trying to learn something from them that is practical, that can help them. And so that's why at Modern Kriya, we teach the original Kriya Yoga as taught in the lineage of Panchanan Bhattacharya. Panchananji was Lahiri Baba, or Lahiri Mahashai's preeminent disciple. He learned all 7 initiations. And so this is the unadulterated Kriya that is very simple, does not require one to stop one's heart. but allows one to very effectively, very efficiently, and expediently get into a deep internalized state, to move into pratyahara, to move into dharana, to move into dhyana, absorption, to move into samadhi, superconscious awareness, and beyond, as far as one can go in meditation and beyond. So from my perspective, I would say that these tall tales in Kriya Yoga, stopping the heart and so on, are really mythologizing. They're really meant to attract people with stories of superhuman accomplishments, but they don't stand up to reality. They don't stand up to testing. And as we see in the case of Yogananda, these claims are bogus. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.